So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get started actually modeling this thing out. We have a lot of work to do, so let's just jump in here and get started. Okay, so I have all these blueprints here which can look a little bit confusing and a little bit congested in our scene viewport. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and select everything except the first floor blueprint down here. And with all those blueprints selected, I'm just going to right click and I'm going to go to hide selection. That's going to temporarily hide that stuff and keep it out of sight for now. I don't need it, so I don't need it confusing me or getting in the way of my work. So here's the first floor blueprint. This is what we're going to work on first, and we're going to go ahead and start blocking out the floor, and then that's going to lead us to creating our walls, and then that's going to lead to doorways, etc., ceilings, and we're going to be able to create our entire house in a pretty linear type fashion. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to select the blueprint here. Now the blueprint is an editable spline. There are modifiers in 3ds Max that allow you to turn splines into actual objects, polygonal objects. We're not going to do that though. One thing I want to point out is that when I model this stuff out, it's not scripted. This stuff wasn't really planned out. It wasn't scripted or anything like that. So basically I'm going to be modeling on the fly in real time. Now the reason I chose to do that is because, yeah, I could have scripted this and make sure everything comes out perfect, but I don't think that would be fair to you. Instead, what I wanted to do was make this as much a real world situation as possible, because in the real world you can't practice things before they need to be done. If a client needs work done, you've got to do it, and you don't have time to practice. You just got to get straight to work and get it done. So I'm going to be running into issues, problems. I'm going to be reworking things. Sometimes you'll see me model something and it may not come out exactly how I wanted it to, so I might scrub back a little bit, delete some stuff that I did, and redo some work. That's perfectly normal when you're working on modeling in 3D in general, not just 3ds Max, but anywhere. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here with the floor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Control and hit the right mouse button to open up the quad menu so I can quickly select a plane. So I'll create a plane, and I'll just draw one out. Don't worry about the size or anything like that. Just draw one out there real quick. I hit 2 on the keyboard to go to the Modify tab. And I'm going to change the length and width segments to 1 and 1, okay, to make this a very simple primitive plane. And I'm going to hit F3 to turn on the smooth highlight mode here so we can see. Okay. What I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to be using the blueprint as a sort of reference to go ahead and model out geometry using this plane. Let's right click on the plane here and convert this to an editable poly. And you notice that I'm going to be moving pretty quickly through this. This is more of an intermediate to advanced tutorial, even though there's going to be a lot of beginner stuff covered here. So again, I strongly recommend that you understand the basics and fundamentals of 3ds Max, because I'm not going to be covering simple stuff like that. Just going to be moving along here and showing you basically what you want to see, which is polygon modeling. Okay, so I'm going to select the blueprint here, and I want to be able to see the vertices of the blueprint, because I'm going to be snapping vertices from the plane here, the green plane, to the blueprint so it matches up. So if the blueprint here selected, I'll right click, I'll go to Object Properties. I'm going to make sure that Vertex Ticks is turned on. I'll hit OK, and now we can see the vertices of the blueprint even when it's not selected, and that's going to be extremely helpful to us. Okay. Now the other thing that I want to do is, if I come in here and select this polygon plane, and I go to Vertex mode by hitting 1 on the keyboard, and I go to move this, you notice that what we get ourselves is the transform gizmo, which shows us the Z, X, and Y axis, and then we get ourselves a little vertex there in the center. We can just grab the vertex and move it around, but you can see it's constrained to the X and Y axis, which is not exactly what I want. This is just a preference of mine. You don't have to do it, but I really like working this way, and I strongly recommend that you do as well. There's a preference in 3ds Max which is turned off by default, which I like to go ahead and turn on myself. So let's go to the Customize menu, and let's go to Preferences very quickly here, and let's go to the Gizmos tab, and we have this option here called Center Box Handle, Move in Screen Space. You can see it's turned off. Let's turn it on. and hit OK. Now you notice there's this little square, gray square, around the vertex. And if we go ahead and click with the mouse in that square and drag, we can move in screen space. In other words, it's no longer constrained to just the X and the Y axis. We can move this around freely, and that's extremely helpful when you're snapping components together, like say vertices. It's extremely helpful and extremely useful. So I'm going to go ahead and have that option there turned on. Okay, now I'm going to turn on snaps, and S is the shortcut on the keyboard for that. But I want to set up my snaps to what I need it to be. So I'm going to right click on snaps up here. Okay, you can also do this by holding down Shift and hitting the right mouse button to open up the this quad menu, and just go to the grid and snap settings, or you can go here into the snap toggles and turn off grid points. I'm going to go to the settings. I want to turn off grid points and want to turn on vertex, because right now what I want to do is snap vertices to each other. So with the snaps on, I'll just go ahead and click on this vertex here, drag it and snap it right there. I'm going to do the same thing to this one over here. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to snap it to that vertex right there. I'm going to take this one and snap it to this vertex right there, so you can see where it's snapped to, and that can allow me to quickly and easily create a floor for my geometry here. So that's basically the core principle of this video right here. Okay, now I'm just going to move much faster and just finish basically building this floor to fit the blueprint here that we have. Okay, so you can just watch me as I do this. If you want to move ahead and just work on this yourself, that'd be fine too. So I'm going to snap that one right there. Okay, and then I have this one over here. This vertex I'm going to go ahead and probably snap. Let me see right there. That's where the staircase is going to be. And again, there's about a million ways to get this done. Okay, now the way I'm extruding edges here, I select an edge, then I hold down the Shift key on the keyboard, and I just pull it in whatever axis I want, and it extrudes a new edge. I'm going to hit F4 on the keyboard to turn on the edged faces mode, so I could see the edges of my topology in my polygons here, which really helps. Okay, so let me take this edge right, these vertices here, and I'm just snapping them to these sections right there. I'm not going to worry about this little piece here from the blueprint. Those little pieces there, and I'll show you some more over here. This piece that's right here that kind of sticks out. See those little square pieces that kind of stick out right there? Those represent doorways. I'm not going to go ahead and model that into my floor geometry right now. I'm going to worry about that later on. So we're going to leave that alone for the moment, and we're not going to create those little extra pieces there in details. Okay. Alright, so let's create this area over here. I'll just take this this edge right here. I'm going to pull it out like this. I'm going to take this vertex and snap it right there. Now I am going to end up with a little bit of an issue here. Not really much of an issue, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these two edges. I'm going to right click to open up the context sensitive quad menu. I'm going to hit the connect option right there. And by doing that, it's basically going to create this new edge right here, right smack in the middle, which gives me more geometry to work with, which is exactly what I want. Okay, let me do the same here. I'm going to right click, connect again. I'm going to take this new vertex, make sure I have this one selected, and snap it right there. This vertex right here, I'm going to take this one and snap it right there. Okay, and I'll take a new edge, extrude it. Again, holding Shift allows you to do that very easily. I'm not going to snap that one just yet. I'm going to snap this one right there. And then this loose vertex that's right there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and go to Target Weld. What that allows me to do is select that loose vertex and just weld it to that one right there. So now that one becomes one, and I fixed that little area up right there, which is excellent. Let me come over here. I'm going to select this edge that's right here, extrude that, I'm just going to go ahead and snap that vertex right there. I'm going to take this one, I'm going to snap this one right about there. Now what I want to do is I want to create a polygon here, and that's very easy to do. I'll go to polygon mode by hitting 4 on the keyboard. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to create. And with the create tool, you notice that the mouse cursor changes. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to place my mouse cursor over this vertex, which I know is over here. And if this grid is getting in your way, which it is getting in my way, I could turn it off easily. Just hit G on the keyboard to get rid of it temporarily. So G toggles it on and off. So I'm going to turn it off. I don't need it. And when I put my mouse cursor over this vertex right there, you notice that it changes. See what it looks like right now? As soon as I hover over that, it changes to let me know that I can go ahead and click to create the first vertex of my polygon there. Then I'm going to create another one there. And then I'm going to double left click on the last one here to create a triangle right there to fill in that gap. So now I have a new triangle there, which is good. So I'm going to select this edge here and I'm going to extrude this out. Go to vertex mode and I'm going to snap this here. Now if I zoom in very closely, you can see there's two vertices, one on the right, one on the left. I want to snap this to the one here on the right. Oh, I'm sorry, not the one on the right, the one on the left. Okay, it's always good to zoom out a bit, rotate around, analyze your scene, make sure that what you're doing is correct. It's very easy to kind of get confused sometimes, or forget to do something and mess something up. So just keep aware of that. I'm going to go ahead and extrude this again. And this one I'm going to go ahead and extrude and snap these vertices here, right there. Again, we're not going to model these little doorway pieces, these sort of little flanges, I guess, if you want to call them that way, right here, which represent the doorways. We're not going to model that just yet. That'll be later. I'm going to extrude this. And I'm going to go ahead and snap those vertices right here to these corners. Okay. Okay, so that's going to do it for that. Alright, so let me just pull back here and analyze my floor here a little bit. See what it is that I need to do. Okay, looking pretty good. Now I have this sort of strange geometry here, sort of like a trapezoid or something going on here. I don't want to have strange geometry like that. Whenever I have strange geometry like that, strange edges and extra vertices I don't need, before I move any further in my project, I want to get rid of that stuff as soon as possible. Just so that later it doesn't add extra geometry when I start working on this more and more and more. And it just means I'm going to have to do more cleanup later. So I'll select this edge right here. I'll right click and I'm going to go to collapse. And by collapsing, it basically does what the tool suggests. It collapses that edge together and forms just this one vertex. Okay, but I still want to get rid of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, go to target weld, and I can weld this vertex to this one, which is fine. Or I can weld it to that one over there. Really, it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm going to go to edge mode and I'm going to select this edge as well as these right here. I'm going to hit backspace on the keyboard to get rid of those edges. It didn't delete any vertices. All it did was delete those extra edges, which I really don't need. I don't like having those extra edges like that all over the place. It just makes the geometry look denser than it actually is, which can be confusing to your eyes when you scan this very quickly and you're trying to find a certain wall or certain edges, and you don't want that happening. Of course, we can't start deleting every single edge. It'll mess up our topology. So we'll just get rid of those and we'll be fine. Okay, so it's very simple, very basic geometry right now, as you can see. I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm happy with that for the moment. And I'm going to tentatively say that the floor is done, at least for the moment. Modeling is it's an art of going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So don't be surprised if we have to come back to this floor and make some alterations, changes, or even add geometry to this, which we may have to do later. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say I'm happy with this for now. I'm going to end this video here, and in the next one we're just going to continue working on this scene.